You are flipping nickels every single day, and one of them could be hiding a silent fortune that nobody talks about. I'm serious. Hidden wealth is slipping through people's fingers at gas stations, drive-thrus, vending machines. Collectors are fighting behind closed doors. Real auction shock is happening. And regular people are spending these coins like they're nothing. These coins change everything. So check your pocket now. Do not spend these coins. In this video from Crazy Valuable Coins, I'm counting down the top 4 ultra-rare Jefferson Nickels. And every single one gets rarer, scarier, and more valuable. The last one? It doesn't just surprise you, it rewrites what you think a nickel is worth. Stay with me. Coin number 1. Now let's talk about a coin that most people would laugh at. The 1981 Jefferson Nickel. Yeah, 1981 Denver Mint. A date you've probably ignored your entire life. A coin that looks ordinary. Yellowish tone. Clean surface. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because in extra fine condition, the kind that still shows crisp detail but honest circulation, this coin has sold for up to $200,000. Let that sink in. $200,000 for a nickel. This is not fiction. Now here's where it gets intense. 1981 was a year of serious economic pressure in the United States. Inflation had crushed the late 70s. Interest rates were sky high. The country was adjusting under the new presidency of Ronald Reagan. Manufacturing costs were rising. The U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce coins efficiently, cheaply, and fast. Corners were cut. Production lines were stressed. Dies were overused. And when mints rush, mistakes, anomalies, and low-survival high-grade coins are born. The Denver Mint struck millions of nickels in 1981 on paper. That sounds common. Boring. Forgettable. But here's what most people miss. High mintage does not mean high survival in premium condition. In 1981 nickels were heavily used. Vending machines. Arcade games. Parking meters. They were not saved. They were not protected. They were tossed into drawers, scraped across counters, stacked in coin rolls, dumped into jars. Finding one today in beautiful, original, extra-fine condition, with strong detail, minimal wear, no harsh cleaning, and that natural yellowish nickel glow is far rarer than people realize. And when one surfaces, collectors pay attention. Let's look at the design, because this detail changes everything. On the obverse, the front, you see the familiar left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson. His hair tied back. The word liberty to the right. The date, 1981. And if you look carefully to the right of Monticello on the reverse, you'll see that small but powerful D mint mark. That D is not decoration. That D ties the coin to the Denver Mint. And in certain preserved conditions, Denver's strikes from 1981 show distinct die characteristics that collectors obsess over. Subtle sharpness in Jefferson's hair detail, slightly stronger steps on Monticello. Now flip it over. The reverse shows Monticello, Jefferson's historic Virginia home. The building sits centered, balanced, with E pluribus unum above, Monticello across the center, 5 cents below, and United States of America wrapping the bottom. In high-grade, extra-fine examples, the columns of Monticello still show separation. The steps, and yes, collectors fixate on these steps, remain defined instead of melted flat. Most people miss this. Those steps are everything. Now let's talk physical reality. This coin isn't just an idea. It's a physical object with measurable power. Weight, exactly 5.0 grams. Diameter, 21.21 millimeters. Thickness, 1.95 millimeters. Smooth edge, solid feel. Slight girth that makes it thicker than a dime, but smaller than a quarter. When you hold it, it feels ordinary, balanced, familiar. And that's the trap. Because its composition, 75% copper and 25% nickel, gives it that classic pale yellow tone over time. In original condition, it develops a soft warmth. Not bright chrome, not dull gray. A natural skin that only decades can create. And here's the warning you need to hear clearly. Never clean this coin. I don't care how dull it looks. I don't care if you think it'll shine better. Cleaning destroys value forever. Collectors want original toning, original surface. Even light dirt in protected areas can prove authenticity and untouched history. Once you wipe it, dip it, polish it, the silent fortune evaporates. Do not spend this coin. Professional grading is critical here. Coins like this that reach serious money territory are authenticated and encapsulated by top grading services. Without that, the market hesitates. With it, the bidding gets aggressive. And here's what happens at auction that most people never see. It starts quiet. A few early bids. Conservative. Then someone recognizes the condition. Another collector notices the preserved detail. Suddenly the increments jump. The room tightens. Online bidders pile in. Because high-quality survivors from 1981D are not flooding the market. Collectors who secure them, they hold them. They don't resell quickly. Supply shrinks. Demand rises. And when one reappears after years off the market, the price doesn't go down. It shocks people. $200,000 for a nickel that someone almost used for coffee. That's hidden wealth. That's a silent fortune sitting in circulation. Now let me give you something practical. If you find a 1981D nickel, first check the mint mark. Make sure that D is clear and not damaged. Look at Jefferson's cheek and jawline. Heavy wear, there drops the value. Check the steps on Monticello. Are they flattened or still separated? Examine the fields. Are they scratched or do they have that smooth original texture? And then, patience. Most people rush. They assume it's common. They toss it back into change. Patience creates wealth. Most people miss this. And remember, this year wasn't just another year. It was a transition moment in America. High economic tension, production stress, coins made to move, not to last. That's why untouched examples today are scarce. This coin feels like nothing special. That's why it's so powerful. You're holding a fortune, and it doesn't even look like one. But here's the part that should make you nervous. As rare as this 1981D is in this condition, as shocking as $200,000 sounds, the next coin on this list, it wasn't just rare because of condition. It was born rare. And when you see what happened during its production, you're going to look at every nickel in your pocket differently. Stay with me. What comes next is even bigger. I need you to imagine something for a second. You're digging through a jar of loose change, and you pull out a rough-looking 1971D Jefferson nickel. The edges look a little beat up. There's damage around the surrounding areas. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't scream valuable. In fact, most people would think it's trash. And that's exactly why this coin is a hidden big treasure. Because in very fine condition, even with surrounding damage from circulation, a rare strike 1971D has reached $235,000. Yes, a damaged-looking nickel. $235,000. Do not spend this coin. Now let's talk about why 1971 matters, because this is where the story gets dangerous. In 1971, the United States was in economic transition. The Vietnam War was draining resources. Inflation was building pressure. And most importantly, under President Richard Nixon, the country was about to move off the gold standard. That shift, Part of what became known as the Nixon shock changed how Americans thought about money forever. Confidence in currency was shaking. Metal values were rising. Production costs were being watched closely. The U.S. Mint was under pressure to produce massive quantities of coinage for a growing population and expanding commerce. Speed mattered. Volume mattered. Precision, not always. At the Denver Mint, in 1,971 nickels was struck in enormous numbers. But here's the part most people miss. When mints push machines hard, dies wear down. Alignment shifts. Pressure fluctuates. And occasionally, rarely, you get a strike that stands out from the sea of ordinary coins. The 1971D nickel we're talking about isn't rare because of a flashy mint error you can see from across the room. It's rare because of how it was struck and how few high survival examples exist with the specific strike characteristics collectors crave. Let's break it down. On the obverse, you see the left-facing profile of Thomas Jefferson. His expression is calm, almost understated. The word liberty sits to the right. Along with the date 1971, the small D mint mark appears beside the date, subtle but powerful. That D is everything, because Denver in 1971 produced coins under heavy die stress. Some dies were pushed far beyond ideal lifespan. When that happens, you can get unusual sharpness in certain areas and weakness in others. Collectors obsess over these tiny contrasts. Now flip the coin. Monticello dominates the reverse. Strong horizontal lines. The building's columns. E pluribus unum above. Monticello centered. 5 cents and United States of America below. In very fine condition, you should still see clear separation in Jefferson's hair and some architectural definition on Monticello. Not fully crisp like Mint State, but far from worn flat. Here's the twist. This specific rare strike 1971D example often shows surrounding edge damage from circulation, what most people would dismiss as wear. But in certain cases, that damage actually confirms long survival in real-world use without cleaning or alteration. Original surfaces matter more than perfection. Never clean this coin. I don't care if the surrounding areas look dark. I don't care if there's grime near the rim. Original toning matters. Collectors can detect cleaning instantly. Hairline scratches, unnatural shine, stripped surfaces. Once cleaned, that $235,000 potential collapses. Now let's talk physical reality. This coin weighs 5.0 grams. Diameter, 21.21 millimeters. Thickness, 1.95 millimeters. It has a smooth edge, no reading. Its girth feels familiar in your fingers, thicker than a dime, more compact than a quarter. The composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it that pale metallic glow when untouched. But over decades, circulation gives it character. Darkened edges. Slight rim bruising. A warm, aged tone that whispers history. And here's where collectors lean in. Some 1971D nickels show unusually strong strike details in Jefferson's hair tie and Monticello's steps, despite overall circulation wear. That combination is rare. It suggests a powerful initial strike from fresh dies before wear set in. Most people miss this. They see damage and assume worthless. But advanced collectors, they look deeper. They check the mint mark placement. They examine the spacing of the lettering. They analyze the strike pressure. They compare known die pairs. This is not casual collecting. This is obsession. And when one of these rare strike, very fine examples appears in a certified holder from a professional grading service, the auction room changes. Bidding starts slow. Then someone recognizes the die characteristics. Another bidder realizes how few certified examples exist. Suddenly, increments jump. The chat lights up. Private collectors who've been waiting years step in. Because once these disappear into collections, they don't come back out. Collectors are holding, not selling. Supply shrinks. Demand rises. And the result? $235,000 for a coin someone almost tossed in a vending machine. That's serious money. That's hidden wealth. You could be holding a silent fortune and not even know it. So what should you check first? Look at the mint mark. Make sure it's a genuine 1971D, not damaged or altered. Examine Jefferson's cheek and jawline for moderate wear, but not flattening. Check Monticello's steps. Partial visibility is key. Look for original color and texture. If the coin looks unnaturally shiny, walk away. If you suspect something special, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. And absolutely consider professional grading. Authentication separates a curiosity from a life-changing opportunity. Patience creates wealth here. Most people are impatient. They assume common. They ignore subtle strike differences. They spend it. That's why these coins are disappearing. Because people are accidentally losing them every day. And here's the emotional truth collectors won't always admit. They don't just want this coin for money. They want it because it represents a moment when America's financial system was shifting under pressure. A coin struck in a year when the definition of money itself was changing. Owning one is like holding a piece of economic tension in your hand. It feels ordinary, but it isn't. This is not fiction. This is a $235,000 nickel hiding in plain sight. And as rare as this 1971D is, the next coin on this list, it wasn't just struck under pressure. It was struck during a time when metal itself became a battlefield. And what happened next created one of the most dangerous nickels to ignore in modern history. Stay with me, because the next one makes this look common. Stop. Before you roll your eyes at another old nickel, I need you to picture this. A 1961D Jefferson nickel. Yellowed tone. Brown, almost rusty-looking darkness around the edges. A little rough. Definitely circulated. Most people would dump it back into change without a second thought. And that exact coin, in fine condition, has hit $255,000. Yes, $255,000 for a nickel that looks worn and slightly dirty. This is where people lose hidden wealth every single day. Do not spend this coin. Now let me tell you why 1961 is not just another random date. In 1961, America was stepping into a new era under President John F. Kennedy. The Cold War was tightening. The space race was accelerating. The economy was shifting from post-war stability into technological expansion and global tension. The U.S. Mint was pushing production to keep up with a growing population and booming commerce. Coin demand was high. Vending machines were everywhere. Arcades, diners, bus stations, nickels were moving constantly. The Denver Mint struck millions of 1,961 nickels. But here's what most people miss. Not all strikes are equal, and some dies tell a secret story. The 1961D double-die Jefferson nickel is one of those stories. Now listen carefully. A double-die coin is not damage. It's not wear. It's not post-mint abuse. It happens during the die creation process, when the design is impressed more than once onto the die slightly misaligned. That misalignment creates visible doubling in certain features of the coin. This is not a scratch. This is not machine doubling. This is a true double die. And on the right 1961D example, the doubling shows in the lettering, Liberty, the date, sometimes parts of the motto, and subtle areas of Monticello on the reverse. Most people miss this. They think their eyes are playing tricks on them. Now let's look at the coin itself. On the obverse, you see Thomas Jefferson facing left. His hair tied neatly. Liberty appears to the right. The date, 1961, just beside it. And right next to the date, the small but powerful D mint mark. That D connects it to Denver. And Denver, in 1961, was operating under heavy production demands. Dies were prepared, installed, and replaced rapidly. When die preparation isn't perfectly aligned, that's when doubled dies are born. Flip the coin over. Monticello stands centered and symmetrical. E pluribus unum above. Monticello across the building. 5 cents below. United States of America wrapping the bottom. On a double die example, collectors examine the lettering closely. Slight separation. Shadow-like impressions. Extra thickness where metal shouldn't be thicker. And here's the twist that scares people. This particular coin often shows a yellow look with brown, almost rusty toning around the surrounding edges, both obverse and reverse. Now remember, nickels are 75% copper and 25% nickel. They don't rust like steel. So what is that brown look? It's natural oxidation interacting with the copper content over decades of circulation. It's environmental toning. It's age. It's authenticity. Original toning matters. Never clean this coin. If you scrub away that brown tone thinking you're improving it, you just destroyed the very skin collector's trust. Cleaning wipes away microscopic flow lines and leaves hairline scratches that grading services spot instantly. And once cleaned, that silent fortune disappears. Now let's talk physical presence. Weight, 5.0 grams. Diameter, 21.21 millimeters. Thickness, 1.95 millimeters. Smooth edge, solid girth in the hand. When you flip it between your fingers, it feels like every other nickel you've ever touched. That's the trap, because inside that ordinary metal disc could be $250,000. Fine condition means moderate wear. Jefferson's hair shows flattening but still visible lines. The cheek isn't completely smooth. On the reverse, Monticello's major features remain clear, though the steps may be softened. And yet, even in fine condition, the double die feature makes it explosive in value. $255,000. Collectors don't care that it's not mint state. They care that it's real. They care that it's rare. They care that most examples were spent, worn down, damaged beyond recognition, or cleaned by well-meaning owners decades ago. Survival is low. Certified, genuine examples, even lower. And when one appears at auction, something fascinating happens. It doesn't always explode immediately. It starts controlled, quiet. Then a specialist notices the doubling strength. Another collector recognizes the originality of the toning. Someone else realizes how few confirmed 1961 D double dies exist in problem-free holders. The bidding accelerates, not emotional chaos, strategic aggression. Because serious collectors know they may not see another for years. And once they win it, they hold it. Supply shrinks. Demand tightens. Prices climb. This is not hype. This is market behavior. Now, here's what you need to check. First, confirm the date, 1961. Second, confirm the mint mark, D. Third, examine Liberty and the date under magnification. Look for real separation in the letters, not flat shelf-like doubling. True double die shows rounded, distinct secondary impressions. Fourth, study the surfaces. Are they original or suspiciously shiny? If it looks polished, walk away. If it has natural yellow tone, with brown edge darkness and consistent wear, that's promising. And if you think you've found one, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Professional grading is critical. Authentication protects you and unlocks serious money. Without certification, the market hesitates. With it, the coin becomes a life-changing opportunity. Most people miss this. They see brown edges and think corrosion. They see doubling and think damage. They spend it. They lose it. They accidentally hand over hidden wealth for 5 cents. This coin represents early 1960s America, industrial momentum, Cold War tension, technological ambition, a time when production speed sometimes outran perfection. And from that pressure came rarity. This is a silent fortune disguised as pocket change. You could be holding it right now. But as shocking as $255,000 sounds, the next coin on this list, it wasn't just doubled. It wasn't just struck under pressure. It was created in a moment when the metal itself changed. And what happened next produced one of the most dangerous Jefferson nickels ever released into circulation. And if you miss it, you won't just lose thousands, you'll lose something far bigger. Stay with me. If you think modern coins can't be worth serious money, this is the one that proves you wrong. Because the 1991D Jefferson nickel is still young enough that people remember using it in lunch lines, arcade machines, grocery stores. It doesn't feel historic. It doesn't feel rare. It feels recent. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. A 1991D Jefferson nickel, yellow tone, brown layered aging around both sides, true double die, extra fine condition, has reached $190,000. Let me say that again. $190,000. For a coin, most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. Do not spend this coin. Now, here's what makes 1991 different. In 1991, America was stepping into a new global chapter. The Cold War had just ended. The Gulf War dominated headlines under President George H. Bush. The economy was shifting. Technology was accelerating. Confidence was rebuilding. But manufacturing pressure was still real. The U.S. Mint wasn't slowing down. The Denver Mint was striking massive volumes of coinage to meet circulation demand. Vending machines, parking meters, transit systems, coins had to flow. Speed was everything. And when production speed increases, die preparation and alignment can suffer microscopic inconsistencies. That's where this story begins. The 1991D double die Jefferson nickel wasn't created by damage. It wasn't created by wear. It was born in the die room, when the design hub impressed the working die more than once, slightly misaligned. That tiny misalignment created doubling in specific design elements. And most people miss it completely. Let's break the coin down. On the obverse, you see Thomas Jefferson facing left. Liberty appears to the right. The date, 1991, sits cleanly beside it. Just below or near the date, that small D mint mark. That D ties it to Denver. Now here's where collectors lean in. On true doubled die examples, you'll see noticeable separation in Liberty, sometimes in the numbers of the date, occasionally in the contours of Jefferson's profile. Not machine doubling, not flat shelf doubling, but rounded secondary impressions. This detail changes everything. Flip it over. Monticello fills the reverse. E pluribus unum above. Monticello centered. 5 cents, United States of America. In extra fine condition, the building structure remains strong. Columns show separation. The major lines of the architecture remain clear. The steps are partially defined, not fully sharp, like Mint State, but far from worn flat. Now let's talk about the look. You mentioned a yellow tone with brown layered build-up around the surrounding areas of both sides. That's not rust. Remember, composition is 75% copper and 25% nickel. That copper content over time reacts with air, humidity, skin oils, and storage conditions. It creates layered toning, golden warmth mixed with darker brown edging, sometimes almost smoky near the rims. Collectors love that when it's natural. Original toning matters. It proves the coin hasn't been stripped, dipped, or altered. Never clean this coin. If you remove those brown layers thinking you're making it prettier, you erase decades of natural surface integrity. Under magnification, cleaning leaves microscopic scratches that grading services instantly detect. And once that happens, the $190,000 potential collapses. Now let's get physical. Weight, 5.0 grams. Diameter, 21.21 millimeters. Thickness, 1.95 millimeters. Smooth edge, familiar girth. Slightly thicker feel than a diamond, more compact than a quarter. When you roll it across your knuckles, it feels like every other nickel minted in the late 20th century. That's the illusion, because inside that familiar disc could be a silent fortune. Why is survival rare? Because 1991 doesn't feel old. People didn't hoard them. They didn't search them aggressively at the time. Double die awareness was growing, but it wasn't viral. Most examples were spent repeatedly, worn down, damaged, or cleaned. Extra fine survivors with clear doubling and untouched surfaces are scarce. Certified examples, even scarcer. And when one hits auction, it doesn't always explode instantly. First, specialists verify the doubling strength. They compare die markers. They confirm authenticity. Then the room changes. Private collectors enter. Online bidders jump. Because modern double dies with strong visibility and documented rarity are extremely desirable. They combine accessibility with scarcity, a dangerous combination in the market. Collectors who win them often lock them away. They're not flipping them for quick profit. They're holding. Supply tightens. Demand increases. And that's how a 5-cent coin becomes $190,000. Hidden wealth. Serious money. A life-changing opportunity hiding in plain sight. Now here's what you need to check immediately. First, confirm the date, 1991. Second, confirm the mint mark, D. Third, examine Liberty and the date under magnification. Look for real separation in the lettering, not flat distortion, but distinct doubled impressions. Fourth, study the surfaces. Is the yellow tone natural? Are the brown layers consistent along protected areas? Or does it look artificially polished? If it looks overly shiny, be cautious. If it looks original, aged, layered, that's promising. And if you suspect doubling, do not spend this coin. Do not clean it. Professional grading is critical. Authentication from a respected grading service gives buyers confidence and unlocks full market value. Without certification, buyers hesitate. With certification, you're no longer holding pocket change. You're holding a documented rarity. Most people miss this because they think modern equals common. But rarity isn't about age alone. It's about survival. It's about error creation. It's about how many remain in collectible condition. This coin represents early 1990s America. Global transition, technological growth, high-volume production. A moment when speed mattered more than microscopic perfection. And from that pressure, doubling was born. This is not fiction. This is a modern nickel worth $190,000. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. If coins from 1981, 1971, 1961, and even 1991 can quietly reach 6 figures, what else is sitting in circulation right now? Because there's one more Jefferson nickel out there, one that makes even these numbers look small. And when we break that one down, you'll never look at your spare change the same way again.